Hi there, it's Denise Eckert, and I love coming on here and sharing different ideas to help you lower the stress in your life. And today I've got Dr. Sharon Melnick, and she's a Harvard Medical School trained executive psychologist who coaches executive women and founders to be in their own power and use their power for good. Named by Thinkers 50 as one of the top 50 coaches in the world, she's also created buzz with her presentations at business conferences around the world, including at the White House, the United Nations, and for women at West Point. She's also the best-selling author of In Your Power and Success Under Stress. Welcome, Dr. Sharon.
I'm so glad to be here with you, Denise.
Now, what inspired you to do this type of work?
The first thing that I did early on in my career is I did psychology research at Harvard Medical School, and I studied intergenerational issues. So what you bring with you from your own experiences in childhood into your parenting in the next generation. And then if you're someone who had difficult or traumatic or abusive experiences, what we studied is what will set you up to repeat those patterns or not, to avoid repeating those mistakes. So that's really what I understood. I'm a psychologist by training. And what I found is that then I started out as a therapist, and I had some clients who were working in big banks or companies with business partners. And they said, oh, I don't just do these things that we're talking about with my children. I do them with my direct reports or my manager or my business partner or my investors or whatever it was. And it was at that point I realized this wasn't really about parenting, but we all bring with us some sort of a pattern, right? A way of being in the world. And that was when this thing called coaching started to come into the consciousness. This was 20, 30 years ago, I guess. And I realized, frankly, that people would pay me 10 times as much to do the same work talking about their career as they would their parenting. And I thought, well, if I do the work and they change things in their relationships at home, it's like a win-win. So that's how really I got into doing this work.
Awesome. So now when we're dealing with stress, a lot of times it can be our past patterns that we bring into our lives. If someone is listening and recognizes, yeah, some of their past patterns are not helping them anymore, what are the steps that we can take to get past these bad patterns?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good insight that you just shared. And I think that there's like different kinds of stress. I mean, I think one of the things that people are experiencing these days is just sheer overwhelm, where our stress circuits are kind of overtaxed. And that is a kind of a too much to do problem. But I think that what you're talking about here is a different kind of stress where it's really like where situations trigger internal reactions. Right. And whatever language you want to use, parts of us get activated or emotional patterns get activated, memories of past situations. And that's where we really get emotionally hijacked within our own selves. And then whatever that emotion was, it kind of takes us over. Our whole being, our mental and emotional state, our physical state feel that too. And it just feels like that's what the world is like. The world is scary, or it's full of doubt or self-criticism of myself, or it's full of ruminations, and I just can't seem to get the ping pong ball out of my head and get back to a state of ease and focus. With all the kind of mental health issues that people are saying is really real for people today, I think that is a certain kind of stress. And is that the kind of stress that you wanted to be talking about? Mm-hmm. Got it. So I think when that's the case, there's a number of things that you can do. I think always the first rule is that this sense of stress really gets activated inside of us when we feel something is out of control in the situation, out of our control in the situation. It is the out of controlness, if you will, that activates the stress response. So I think the very first thing is the foundation, the golden rule really of your stress solution is to sort out like what are the aspects of the situation that you can control and distinguish that from the aspects of the situation that you can't control. And you usually will notice immediately that any moment we're focusing our attention on matters that we can't control, we leak our power. We leak our power. It's just, and really what we want in order to be helpful to us is to get back in our power, right? That's when we're going to get back to that state of ease. And the way that I understand it is that there's three things that really are involved with being in your power. One is that you have a sense of agency. Like you feel like there's something that I could do about this situation. I have some options. I could cope, right? The next is that you have a sense of sovereignty. Sovereignty is when you're like, I can stay in the state that I intend to be in. And if I get triggered and I react, I can get back in. Or like I determine what I believe about myself, and I'm not spending all my time worrying about or run by what other people are going to think about me. So to be in that centered state. And then the third thing is to have a sense of efficacy so that when you act, you feel like it works, like something changes, people listen to you, the situation gets better. And those are three things that when you have them, you feel like I'm good in me in this situation. You know what I mean? And there's something that I can do. I can get myself into a good place. And when you're there, then you can act to further your aims, to get what you want, to have more of the kind of relationship energy that it is that you want. So I think the first thing to consider is to kind of get back in your power. What can you control in the situation? There's lots of directions that we can go from there, but that's the first thing.
I love that because, yeah, it is. Okay, for instance, right now, what's going on in the world, it's not something that we can personally control. Can you give us an example of how to turn that around for ourselves right now?
Yeah, just at the time of this recording, there's a lot of volatility and kind of chaos going on in the world, a lot of uncertainty. People are afraid, people are angry. We don't really know how events out there are going to affect our lives. There's lots of things that you could do. Let me maybe start with two. So, one is the more things are out of control outside of you, the more that you want to try to focus on being in control inside of you. So, one thing that can really help is to really identify and articulate who do you want to be in the situation. So what's the outcome that you want, at least for yourself, maybe to be successful and stay in your role, or to, grow your business and be the one who prospects choose, et cetera. And so whatever that outcome is that you want, the first question you want to be, and who do I need to show up as in order to make that happen? And it's kind of a list combining like those those attributes, those qualities, who you want to be, in combination with what the role needs from you or what your business needs from you. You know what I mean? Or what the growth of your business needs from you. And I would make like lists of those two things. And then I would almost even come up with a phrase that kind of encapsulates that. So a lot of times, like for my executive women clients, it could be something like strategic visionary or positive influencer or something like that. And if you're an entrepreneur, it might be something like, for me, sometimes this phrase that kind of encapsulates who I want to be and gets me back to my center: turned on millionaire. So that's who I want to be. So if I'm in a stressful situation, like thinking, okay, things are out of my control. So how can I show up as that turned on millionaire? Right. And then like that gets me back into the state that I want to be in. And from there, I can remember the words that I can use to connect with clients. I can show up with my passion and bring my talents. And the more it is out of control out there, or really just in any time, it's like, what we create in the world comes from the pictures that we have in our mind, right? And the state of our nervous system. So I think the more that you can be thinking pictures that you want in your future, the more you think those, the more that's going to materialize on the outside. So I think it's like you have to do even more to stay in this state of who you want to be.
And what are the kind of things that you can do to stay in that state?
Yeah.
Like, you talk about pictures, are you talking about visualizations or?
Yeah, well, for sure. I think visualizing and sort of whole body visualizing, really feeling it as if it's already happening. And I know for myself, I get kind of a swell, of kind of positive emotion and gratitude. So I think for sure being really, really intentional about the future you want and uploading that into your body of who you want to be, that's for sure. One thing that I've been having to do myself, or noticing that I'm doing for myself, is it could be really scary in these times. I mean, it feels like all precedent is off. Like the world could go in any direction, as high or as low, as is even beyond our imagination in these times. And so I've been noticing that I really have to do things to manage my energy state. For sure. And I think that there's like a whole repertoire that any of us can have and develop. But I know for myself, like I can get really fearful. And especially when like I have an idea of what I want for my business, but then the reality doesn't match it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that that person didn't follow up with me, or they don't have as much money as my fee, or whatever the situation is, or I'm not hearing back from people on my team in the way that I need to. And so when it's like you interact with that reality that doesn't match like what it is that you want, like immediately, that's friction. That's going to trigger you in some way. And I've been noticing myself getting fearful in these times. I've been really having to very actively manage myself. So here are just some of the things that I've been doing. So one of the things that I do is I do breathing techniques, especially like Kundalini kinds of things that are very like rapid shifting breath to kind of clear out that fear ball, that huge hairball in my chest. And it just like breath of fire or other things that are really like help me to take in a full breath into my belly all the way up to my shoulders and down, and to really do that until I feel that there's a shift. I've been doing tapping or emotional freedom techniques. I've been doing some EMDR when I notice like, wow, I'm really getting triggered in this situation. I vigorously exercise. And I say vigorous because I think what's important is that you have to match the intensity of what you're doing physically to move the emotion through. You have to match the activity to the intensity of your emotion. So if you're like mildly annoyed in a situation, you could be like, I'm going to go for a walk for 10 minutes, get some sun on my face, come back. I'm good to go. But if you're really in a fearful state, or if you're really angry and upset about something or heartbroken about something, 2 or 3 deep breaths like is really not going to move the energy in the way that matches the intensity of it. So that's why like I do really vigorous exercise, and I'm a runner. I sprint, and people yell things at me like, you go girl. You know what I mean? Like when I'm out on the pave running, and that really helps get my yayas out. So those are just some kind of things. And just to wrap this up, to bring it all together, there's in any stressful situation, there's the stressful situation that happens. So we want to problem solve that. But then there's also the energy that's coursing through your body. That's all the stress juice. So we really have to do both. Like we have to do things to try to shift the problem so it doesn't keep reactivating us. But we also have to remember, because what I find, especially when we're in the work world, like business women, is that we can just push ourselves and we could be like, yeah, I'll deal with that later or tomorrow, or where it feels too big and bottomless, the rage that I feel at what's going on in the world today. And sometimes I feel like I can't even access it because it's too big. And one of the things I do, and I do this when I speak for women's audiences, is that I have us do a community rage dance break. It's really good to be able to do this in community, and you gotta stomp it out, you gotta scream it out, you gotta punch it out, whatever you gotta do. And you gotta do this like on a continuous repeated basis. It can't just be like one time and then I'm good for the week. It's a physical hygiene that we have to do. So you gotta pay attention to the emotional coping, changing the stressor, and you have to make sure that you move it through your body, and then you won't get sick from it.
I love that because, yeah, you're matching, the intensity of your stress or your fears. And I know for myself with what's going on, I've been pretty upset about it for the last couple of days. So yesterday I made a choice and went, okay, enough reading. I'm not reading this stuff anymore for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had a really early night and I read a really good fiction book
Yeah.
and I made myself a nice tea. And this morning I just felt so much better.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
amazing how you need to turn things around. You can't keep going down that rabbit hole if you find that it's upsetting you or putting you into fear, because as you said, there's nothing we can do about it.
There are things that we can do, and we definitely want to maximize on the things that we can do, actually, and really pour ourselves into those things to the extent that it like fills you and not depletes you. And then I think really, really kind of maximizing on the world around you that you can control. And I've been noticing that I've really had to pay close attention to my own mindset. And when I feel like things are just like getting scary, then I really reconnect with like me feeling bigger than the outside problem. Like I can trust in me and like what I can do, with my own kind of efforts, and making sure that I'm really clear in what I'm attracting and the messaging that I'm putting out and all those kinds of things. There's a lot of opportunity to create the world around you. right? For what it is that you can control and for us to come together collectively to respond to the macro world. So I think like whatever it is, like we can stay in ready position and we can still make our microcosm good, and helping others always makes us feel better.
Absolutely. And I love that too, doing things as a community. And I do belong to a lot of women's groups, and it's amazing. Like one woman would post in there her fear, and the amount of support that she received from that is just incredible. You're not alone in this. And it's nice to have that community.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important in these times.
I love the name of your new book, In Your Power. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. In your power, react less, regain control, raise others. I think it's really important to talk about being in your power as it relates to stress and as it relates to self care, because I think that there's a lot of things that we intuitively think about doing, or it's something that's like part of just being a woman, like getting a manicure or getting a massage or going out for martinis and mocktails with your girlfriends. And I'm like, yes, 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 all in on these things. Very fun and helpful and will reduce your cortisol rates and all these kinds of things. But the thing is that these activities will help to balance your nervous system, right? So they're really, really good for helping you have more balance. They're really good for helping you to sustain your energy. They're really good for you to have fun and connection and open up your heart center and all of these kinds of things. But they won't prevent burnout. And let me tell you why that is. Because burnout doesn't come from having too much to do. Burnout comes from having too little power. So it's great if you do these things and they will help you to have that balance and hit more of that like off button, which will calm your nervous system down. Very, very helpful for you. But especially if you're in some sort of a situation where you're not being heard or you're being disrespected or you're not able to get what you need, or something with a client or a contract or something is not right, then doing those things will have a temporary relief for you, but they're band-aids. And it's really important for you to get back in your power in the situation, so to feel like you have more control, to feel like you actually work it out, so that either you just change the narrative about it and you're okay that it's not working for you, you're good, or else that you actually do something to influence more effectively to get more of what you need. Because this is what I see a lot, is that, again, it's great if you go for a mani or a massage, but being in your power is really the ultimate form of self-care, because you could do those things, but then the next morning you could wake up and you're like, oh, I'm in the dreaded situation again. Right? So it doesn't really kind of change the thing. But when you're in your power, you're like, you could be okay no matter how it's going. You could be like, it's not what I would have chosen, but I see how this is happening for me, not to me. I see the part I played in bringing this about, and I'm getting the learnings from it. And like, you could pivot and be good. Like, even what's going on in the world, you could be like, what's the opportunity for me in this? Like, even for myself, I've been an executive coach for 25 years, and I've always done like psychologically informed coaching. Just, it's always been a hybrid of coaching and therapy. Like, that's just who I am. And in this time, some coaching dollars are down, but everybody wants a therapist in times that are hard. Like during the pandemic, you couldn't find a therapist. So I'm like, I've always been an executive psychologist. That's always been part of who I am. So I'm like, I'm going to be more explicit about that in my positioning. So it's an example of seeing the opportunity in these times. And I think the more that we can be fluid and in our power, no matter what is going on around us, then you can always stay in that state of being good in you. And when a woman is in her power, she raises everyone around her.
Absolutely. And so now where can we get a copy of your book?
Yeah, sure. Anywhere that you buy books, you should be able to get it. And one of the things that you might want to do as a listener is to get a sense, like, how much are you in your power? Like, where are you? And you can find that I actually have an assessment, a profile quiz, and you can find it on my website. It's SharonMelnick.com, SharonM as in Mary, ELNICK, SharonMelnick.com. Go check it out. I really want to see like how much you're in your power.
That sounds amazing. So we're going to be wrapping this up. So what are your final words of wisdom to the audience today?
I would say that as we go through our day, the way we're really going to have the life that we want, it's going to come less from reacting to other people and more from raising ourselves. Not reacting to others' limitations, but raising ourselves to be limitless and pulling all of that power back within. Because again, when you're in your power, you raise everyone around you. I
I'll
think
have to
that's
get
the thing to keep in mind.
Sounds awesome. So wherever you're watching or listening this, I'll be putting Dr. Sharon's information. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask those questions. And if you want to get into your power, yeah, go get the book. Well, thank you
Fantastic.
so much for your time today, Dr. Sharon. In trying times like this, it's great to have people like you just recenter ourselves. Leaving you a gentle reminder to slow down and enjoy life, and I'll see you in the next episode.